In this video, I wanted to share why you may feel like you do everything right, like you try to take care of yourself, like you eat well, you exercise, like you're into your health and your wellness and your personal development, and yet it feels like you don't have enough energy, or health problems keep popping up, or you're still like reactive. It's like you can never quite heal or act the way you want to act, behave like you want to, or you'll start to do something and then you'll get sick, or like the motivation runs out, the momentum runs out. And this is a follow on from my last video as well, but you don't need to watch that to get today's concept. I just kind of mentioned it in the last one. So it would be handy afterwards to go back and have a look at that as well. Um, I've changed my setup today because I started watching myself back a bit, which is always like so fun. However, can I say, after doing like a lot of like self-love and acceptance work and things like that, it's much easier to watch yourself and listen to yourself than before I did that. Like I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand myself. Like I couldn't stand myself. And everything, it was a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. So that was something that's something quite nice. That like I love myself more, which is good since I kind of teach that stuff. But it's always a work, it's always more to be done, not in a, oh, I'll never be healed kind of way. It's you kind of reach a level, you start peeling back the layers and, realizing your patterns and maybe ways of being, old identities that have been holding you back. And at first you try and like fight against them, and then you realize you need to like love on them as much as possible, like love on yourself. And that's what's integrates those parts that aren't in alignment. And we'll be talking about that today. But as you do that and you integrate them, you realize like how much of your life was spent like just even in the background, like you weren't even aware of it, that you were like criticizing yourself or doing things out of like hate for yourself or like not enoughness, and how that was like rippling out into your life. And these are really like unconscious things which you bring to your conscious awareness. And yeah, even like these videos, like my relationship to them and my relationship to myself, like I can see that through everything. You could see that through everything, including your relationship with others and life. If you think life's unfair, it's like, where are you not being fair to yourself or others? Like you always have to bring that question back to yourself. um yeah. Anyway, let's get into the video today. So this is based on, in the last one, now let's see, I'm still going to put it out there. Done is better than perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be present. Today, I didn't feel like doing this. I felt like not showing up, but I've been, I think I mentioned in one of my other videos, like auditing my daily life. And there are certain things I'm like doing well, in the fact they are like the things I want to do. And there are certain things that I want to do, and a part of me holds me back. A part of me self-sabotage. And one of that is making content. And I mentioned about the wound of like being misunderstood, not feeling like seen or heard. And of course, those parts of myself are always going to create that energetic tension and find ways to make me not do that thing. And when we look after ourselves, when we start like nourishing ourselves, putting our energy first and getting our energy back, we become stronger when we develop some self mastery. And I don't like the word discipline, but devotion towards like ourselves, towards being the highest version of ourselves and wanting the best life and experience for ourselves. When that part, which is what you want, becomes stronger than what you don't, then you can see those parts and you can I'm thinking negotiate, but it's like you just talk to them, you build a relationship with them. And when those parts feel safe enough, they generally start integrating into what you want, and they don't rear their heads as strongly as they used to. And they never really go away. Can I say that? They are always a part of you, because it's always a version of your past self. They're always a part of you, but the voice gets smaller. It's like you can see them, you can acknowledge them, but you know you've built enough self-trust now and enough self-mastery that you're in control, you're conscious now, and they don't need to take the wheel. So their voice gets like quieter. And times where you're sick or stressed, you'll notice these parts come up and you're like, this is so weird, like this is something I haven't thought in a year or two, that's such like an old version of myself. But when we get stressed or we get sick and we're under resourced again, that situation reminds us of that past self and it starts to come up. But it's up to us to do something different, think different about it, feel different about it, just deal with it a different way, respond instead of react. That's up to us. But there'll always be the trigger, but it's what we do with that trigger. Just respond to it. Whatever we do, when it aligns with where we want to go, we take a vote towards the person that we want to be, as James Clear would say. And every time that part comes up and you go unconscious and you let it take over you and you believe what it says, it's putting a vote back towards the old identity. In the last video, I explained this weird like thing in my head that I was like, we are whole. Our energy is like part of the whole. And if you watch The White Lotus, not that you take spiritual advice from that, but there's spiritual and energetic advice in everything. Like nothing's a coincidence. Things come into your reality like for a reason. And there's a monk in it, and he explains the spiritual concept that like God, universe, source, like everything, something higher than yourself, is like the ocean, and all of us have little droplets of the ocean in all of us. We are all a part of the same, and we're still made of the same stuff. And if God, universe, source is only love, it's only peace, it's serenity, it's all those kind of good emotions. And basically, a piece of source gets put into us so that we can come into like physical reality. We're born in physical reality so that we can experience ourselves, because when there's nothing but love, joy, peace, wholeness, serenity, infinite, there's no polarity. You can't experience how good that feels if you don't experience the opposite. So it created like Earth life so that it could experience itself through us in life, and we could experience polarity, but we also were meant to choose. The whole point is that we come back to wholeness. That is like evolution. That is, as you grow older and wiser, and as we evolve, we become more and more conscious, and more of that light and wholeness comes back. And each time we're born, we get to go through that cycle, but all the cycles kind of gradually go up and up until, like I said, we like evaporate and we're back to being infinite love and just peace and joy and serenity. I'm going very deep into like the spirituality there. But essentially, if only love is real, if that is source, then all of these conflicting things are polarity. They're only real in our physical reality. So I said the other day, take this, like, pretend this is like a stick. It's not a very good drawing, but we're born, just say born. I'm going to not go into like any past lives and things like that, but we're born and we're whole. It's like a baby comes out, they express their needs, they're happy, they're present, they're in the present moment, and they can experience life as it like comes to them and let it like filter through them. And then things happen us, as I said in the last one, things happen. Doesn't really have to be like trauma, but like either a big emotional event or recurrent little things that were repetitive. And these create like an energetic splitting off. So say this is a piece of wood, and then the splinters like come off and they're separated from the whole, but they're still part of the stick. I feel, if anyone has a better analogy for this. My other thing was like, if I, one of those string cheese, like cheese string, where you peel like the cheese. Anyway, let's stick with the splintered wood. So these parts they've splintered off from the whole, but they're still part of it. So whenever we are in the present moment, when we feel that peace and serenity and just that like loving support, those moments where you're like, you do a meditation, you're like, everything is okay. It's all okay. And you're present, and your mind, you're not overthinking. You're not really thinking about anything. It's like where you just observe and you don't make meaning of anything. And you kind of feel like sometimes when you go into that heart coherence, like your heart like swells like the Grinch, where it's like, and his heart grew like 2 sizes that day. Like you feel that like expansion, and it's just like peace. And if you've tried meditation and stuff, like I hope, or you would have had like one of those experiences. And it doesn't have to be meditation. Like I've definitely had it in places, when I've been on holiday and I've been able to like switch off and just be, and you just feel, it's just like zened out and like everything's okay. That's like that wholeness, except I'm sure if we could really get out of our minds and into the present moment in our body, that could be, it's like on those Joe Dispenza retreats, they like ascend somewhere. But anyway, we're like whole, and then something happens and things splinters off. Okay, you got bullied at school, your parents split up, you were constantly kind of criticized like over and over again and controlled. And remember, like our parents also had nervous system like states they were stuck in. So it's not what they say to you, it is like energy is everything. And if they were stuck in fight or flight, you would inherit that nervous system state. If they were stuck in freeze or shut down, if you had a parent who is depressed, you can easily like inherit that nervous system, because energy, everything is energetic before it's physical. So it doesn't matter what words they speak. It's like who they're being is what is like passed down. And to break that cycle, of the constant, of course, there was times like in women's lives where they wanted it because their lives literally were at risk, back witch trials, or when just women didn't have as many rights. They were trying to be like productive, they're trying to be worthy. And also this like fear of being seen. Of course, they'd want to maybe stay under the radar a bit, back when women were more likely to be abused, or we were just seen as like second-rate citizens. So there's a lot of that inherited trauma, because as I said in the last one, we just kind of replicate their state of being, even though the world we lived in, like our lives weren't in danger, but we're acting like they are, because 3 generations ago, maybe, like their life actually was in danger, and they developed these like, don't be seen, don't be heard, be productive so that you're seen as worthy, and then you won't be killed. Like that was like a genuine thing for them. Except somewhere along the line, when, even though our environment changed and like our lives changed and we're not in danger of dying, we are now still reenacting that, but with like everyday life stressors that like we should not be using our survival mechanisms for. And they set off this stress response in our body and put us into this nervous system state that is just not appropriate for like what's actually going on. Like we're not actually in survival. But then being in survival, being in fight or flight, a state of not enoughness, I'm not worthy. So until I'm like productive and I'm achieving, I'm not worthy until I do more and I make more and I have more money. And how can I like constantly be busy and it's not safe to rest? We create more of that in our lives. So by us feeling that way inside and not examining like, is this true? Or is there a reason for me to be like this? And realizing your email or your work or whatever's going on around you isn't actually life or death. So, okay, I'm actually going to switch out of this state, like consciously. This is not how I choose to feel. It's not appropriate for the situation. And I'm using all my energy. So speaking of energy, when it comes to energy, then, if you're leaking energy, if you're misusing energy in your body, you are going to get hormonal health problems, like cortisol issues, brain fog, gut health, autoimmune conditions. So women are, I feel like, getting more and more of these because we haven't been taught how to turn the stress response off. But more importantly, how to feel safe enough to stay in the frequency of peace, joy, creativity, flow, when that is actually what we should be in most of the time. There is no need to be in survival because emails and work and what people demand of you, they're not survival. It's not a matter of life and death, but that is the way our body is responding to it because we're not checking it. We're not actually intercepting and being like, again, the self-mastery of being like, oh, I've felt in my body now, the way I'm acting, the way I'm thinking, I'm in fight or flight, or I'm in this stress response. Is this actually appropriate right now? Is this helpful? Usually no, because we all know you can do so much better at work. You can think clearer. Even if you want to change jobs, you want to leave your relationship, it's so much better to be in a state of peace and acceptance and calm, to be able to make better decisions, to be able to make better decisions that cause like less suffering for ourselves and others. When we're in fight or flight, we are very urgent. We are like, what's it called? Like erratic, irrational. And we make decisions and we react from a place of life or death. And that actually isn't good in your life because that is what your life will then reflect back to you. That's what we're like creating. So with these parts, so like I said, this is, you when you were 14 and parents split at 5. And so there's all these parts, but they're still part of you. But however, because they're split up, this energetic charge cause this part to split and create like an entity. They create their own identities that are still part of you. Could be the perfectionist, the self-sabotager, the rebel, the victim, because at one point using that mechanism kept you safe. And it doesn't mean it was a very good mechanism. It's just the best you knew when you were 5 or you were 14. If we don't address these and integrate this energy back in by processing your emotions, by feeling into that energetic charge and basically allowing the energy to flow again, because what happens in our bodies is this energy gets stuck instead of healthy flow. It's like water. Water is flows, and when it gets stagnant, it goes all like yucky and things start to like living there. And it shouldn't be there, bacteria and things like that. The water goes all like sludgy and yucky. And that's like in our body. The energy is meant to flow, and emotions aren't wrong, feelings aren't wrong. But when we block the feeling or it's unresolved, so this is like a stress loop has been opened and you didn't have the tools to close it, then it stays there. And then whenever you now in the present experience something that looks like this time, this part comes up, and like, if you allow it, takes you over. You start thinking the thoughts, then it's like, this is not safe. So a time you made a mistake and you were really punished for it or something like that, and now you've done something, you've made a mistake, and you were totally like overreacting. I did this like I did this a couple of weeks ago. Like, I made a mistake and I was a bit under the weather anyway, like sick. Except the difference between me now and me back then is like, I could see myself doing this. And I was like, we definitely have to process this afterwards. But it was like emailing someone, and it was the first time I've used like this program thing, and I got something wrong. And it was irrelevant. Again, it was not life or death. It did not matter. It did not matter that I made the mistake. The person just emailed back and said, oh, I think you've made a mistake here. Because I was in a state of more fight or flight, or this survival state, I took the message as, instead of a joke, like really personally, really personally. And I was like, oh my God, like, and it was like Jeff had given me the information, like my husband. And I was like, oh, why did he, like, if he just told me the right thing, then I wouldn't have made this mistake, and now this person wouldn't think I'm stupid. And as you can see, this is like pressing on quite a few wounds. It's like the feeling of being seen as stupid, the fear of making a mistake. I don't want to be seen as stupid. I don't want to make a mistake. I can't make a mistake, or else something bad will happen. And this in me triggered the blame, blame Jeff, anger, and a fear of like what people think. And all of that unnecessary. And I could see myself do it. And I was like, I actually just need to take a nap and chill out and kind of just look after myself. And I know I'm going to laugh about this, because it actually was like a funny mistake. I'm going to laugh about this tomorrow. And that is the difference now. It's like there's the higher self, like the higher consciousness, the conscious, awake one, observing sometimes when the triggers. And I hope one day, like, I just, you keep practicing your nervous system regulation, doing the things that make you feel good, choosing in every moment how you want to feel. And if you're not feeling how you want to, using your tools to come back to that in time, I'll make a mistake, and I'll be able to, it will probably trigger that part, and I'll be able to be like to that part, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Like, this is the thing. It's always, what does the younger version of you, what would they have wanted to hear? They would have wanted to hear, everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything about you. And also, how can we flip this? Like, I've learned something from that. I now learned what to actually do, and that I made this mistake. And also, it's not life or death. So I don't need this protective part to come up and act like it is life or death, because it wasn't. And how when you are not aware of this, you will play out this whole scenario, and then what happens is you're fighting with your husband because you're blaming your husband, and you're not able to be like, I'm sorry, I know I'm being like, I can see I'm like dysregulated right now. Instead, you keep blaming the husband. Then that voice in your head is like, oh, now that person thinks I'm stupid. So next time you see that person, you're thinking like, oh my God, I'm so self-conscious now, and they think I'm this, and they think I'm that, and oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe, if I had gone down that, I'm feeding that poor, 5-year-old part of me that thinks it's not safe to make a mistake. I'm feeding that, and that will play out more in my life and bring me more of, you're not good enough. It's not safe to make a mistake. And when you make a mistake, people should suffer. You suffer, other people suffer. And that's not true, is it? It's like, you can see how that scenario, how you can choose one path or you can choose the other. but it takes practice. It does take practice, because these parts, if you haven't been aware, they will take you over. And another thing, like if you're leaving a job or a relationship, it's okay to change your mind. You may have been shown when you were younger that it's not safe to change. If you do the same thing, then it will be safe, but your brain can't see beyond your lived experience. So your life could be so much better when you leap into the unknown or you do something different. But because you've never experienced it, your brain's always going to make you feel like it's not safe. Now, for those people who have the health problems, have the depletion, no energy, just know that not integrating these parts, not processing the emotions, is you basically say this is a battery, these are leaking. This is energy just leaking out because you're keeping these alive. Okay, there's your energy just leaking out when these loops are open. And when you are whole, when you integrate these parts and you love on these parts and you basically mother and father them how you would have liked to, how your higher self would. And another way to think of that is like, if you can think of like something higher than you and what they would say to you or what they think of you, and not in like a religious sense of like God-fearing, Irish Catholic here, and they're like, there actually is no heaven and hell. It's life is, you can be, what's the saying? You can be in heaven or hell, but thinking makes it so. It's basically what we decide makes us in heaven or hell. And that is like who we are being, the way we look at things, what we're thinking, how we're feeling, how we're choosing, what meaning we're making of everything, what meaning we're making of life, can be heaven or hell. Like we decide. In every moment we decide. And thinking makes it so. It's not just thinking, it's actually feeling more so than thinking. But yeah, when these loops are open, when these are still like this, then you're leaking energy. And like I said, when you begin to get sick or you're in a stressful situation, where everything, the stressors have built up, and you will start to lose more and more control over your like higher self, over your conscious self and your ability. This is where like everything falls off. You start eating like, you should be eating better and you eat like shit. You stop going to the gym. Sunlight makes you better and a walk, and you stop going outside. It's because this part of you, all of these guys become active, because when you're sick or stressed and these things pile up, you basically start becoming stuck in survival mode. Like you can't easily switch out of it. And this is nervous system dysregulation, which is a loss of flexibility in your ability to go between the states of, regulation and calm, fight or flight, freeze. You start to get stuck down the bottom. And these parts, when you're down there, you're feeding these basically, and you lose more energy. So you become less conscious. So to get out of that rush, to get out of the overwhelm, the procrastination, the freeze, this is why being in the energy, getting control of like your thoughts and teaching your body to feel the emotions that you want to feel is like so important. So then you can start taking the actions that this person wants, as in whatever you want to work towards, your dreams, your goals, your body, like optimal health, your ideal job, more money, whatever it is that you see as like your highest vision. To move towards that, you have to start claiming some of your energy back, because the energy can't go towards here if it's going to all of these. And how you do that is, we've talked about that in the last one, is like, you don't need to go looking for them. The triggers will be there, and you just remember, okay, I'm being triggered right now. So what would my higher self do? Like, what is the more evolved response here? I'm feeling these thoughts. I know because Michelle said, this must be a past version. This seems familiar. These are like thoughts that I've looped. How can I choose the new thoughts? What would feel better to think? What would feel better to feel? How can I feel that? And sometimes it's hard to, when you're really down in the dumps. And also, sorry, when you do that, it's about not fighting these guys. It's about, like I said on the last one, it's like being loving of them, being accepting, listening to them, but also reassuring them that it's okay. They don't need to protect you anymore. And the more you do that, when each trigger comes up, the more you can be loving and kind and compassionate towards them and still take little steps towards your goals. These guys start integrating. So they start coming closer. And when they come closer, when they're out here, like I said, it creates tension and you're leaking this amount of energy. When they become closer to you, because they start to trust you and you can actually have the say, it's like less energy. Can you see that? No. Maybe I should use the black. It's less energy. Okay, and eventually, when they become integrated, okay, maybe they don't. Integration is when all these parts come back to the whole and you're all on the same page. You're all on kind of mostly the same page, where that little inner child and that little teenager who had all these wounds and weren't enough and thought they had to be perfect to be loved and wanted and survive, and thought they weren't worthy, not enough, thought they weren't worthy of being heard or seen, weren't worthy of like their dreams and stuff. And when they get closer to you, firstly, your energy stops leaking, and then you've got more energy to go towards what you want to create. And at the same time, these guys stop trying to sabotage you or take you over and like shut you down, and procrastinate and things like that, because they're on the same page. And that's called embodiment, is when the majority of your energy, the majority of like your identity is in alignment with the thoughts, feelings, actions, identity, beliefs of the person who has what you want. And you are in those feelings, you are feeling that way, that frequency now, and all the parts of you are mostly on board with that, or at least that you can recognize them and bring them back on board. So when they are unintegrated, you're wasting a lot of energy. And this is when we have like a lot of emotional reactivity, relationship problems, like money problems, job, health, can't reach your body goals, or when you do, some other area of your life turns to shit, or your health turns to shit, or something like that. Yeah, and that's basically like alignment. Like that's the whole point. And also when you're whole, you are usually authentic. So sometimes we can think we're whole if we're being perfect. And again, that's like a little sneaky part, but it's like going in the back door. Sometimes you think like, oh, I'm meant to, like, because society said like I should want all these things, but you're like, oh, why do I have everything that I thought I want? I can like manifest stuff, but I'm like not happy. And it's like there's a sneaky part in there, is like, this is what your mother wanted for you, this is what society said, something like that. Or if you don't do it like this, like people won't think you're perfect, or something like that. There's something unaligned. That the more and more you do this, and like I said, you don't need to go out of your way to do this. Life will bring this to you. That is the whole point of life, is to experience the opposite, so that we can be like, nope, this is not what I want, this is what I want. And we decide we're in control. It's when it says like life throws things at you, it's not. It's there's a part inside you that is unintegrated, so it magnetizes that experience to you so it can be integrated. And sometimes these guys, they look like ugly. They look, they're your shadow parts. There are parts like we don't want to look at. But the more you do, and the more you can relate to them as that loving parent, instead of, resisting them or condemning them or pushing them away more or getting angry at yourself, the more integrated they become, and you take the reins back, and everyone in your energy field, everyone, all past versions of yourself, you're all on the same page. And this is a constant thing. This is what life's all about. So you're never going to get rid of all of them completely, but you will notice it's like healing and expansion is a spiral. So you come back around to the same problem. But if you're moving up this spiral, you will see it from a clearer view. Like you look back and be like, I handled that. I may not have handled it perfectly, but I handled that so much better than I would have 3 years ago. Or, oh my God, like I've come around to this problem and now I think of it like a totally different way. Oh, I've come around to this trigger that like a couple of years ago literally would have sent me like spiraling, and I would have been so angry or shut down. And now I've done the same thing and I've only shut down for like a day and I've bounced back. That's healing, that's growth, that's expansion, however small. And when your nervous system is regulated, the smaller the better. Because when we try and make like massive leaps, we can't really hold it. It's like too much energy. And all these parts will be like, no, because you actually haven't like integrated them. So you will like get what you want and it'll feel hard to hold, or you'll sabotage something, like something will go wrong. And just know it's because there's a part of you who doesn't want this because it's not safe. And we need to integrate it. And how we do that, I told you, it's like nervous system regulation, it's learning emotional processing. But I spent a long time just like practicing those things, like trying to do just those and like taking time out for my life. But I found the best way to use these is actually to go live my life. And what I need to know will pop up to me. It will come to me. Like the whatever obstacles, whatever not obstacles, opportunities to integrate something, to grow. Once I try my best to stay in alignment with this, and I mean feel those feelings and keep being intentional about what I want to create and how I want to feel and how I want to think, the other things will come to me and then I can deal with them as I go. So I think that's all today. I hope that was helpful. I'll put this up in my Substack as well and maybe write a bit more on it, or there'll be more info there because I'm going to start a community membership on Substack where we can go through a bit more of the practical and people can like ask questions and things like that. And I love it if you watch this, like comment below if you have any questions or anything, because I do better with like responding to things. So responding to like real life scenarios and your whatever's going on for you. So let me know, or come over to Substack and like join the community for free or the low ticket like paid version. And yeah, have a great day.